Check, check. I could switch to that mic if you prefer.
Test it. Check, check. Check, check.
Check, check. Hello? Okay. I think we're Randy got it. Upper lip. Okay, okay. Gotcha. All right. You guys hear me okay? Yes. All right. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and get started then. So my name is Brendan Donahe. I guess I'm probably most recently well known for doing most of the FPGA design work in CoCo VGA. One thing that's caught my eye kind of recently is the old MC-10. Growing up, I had a couple friends who had them, and they were kind of cool, kind of cute. But you know, now that there are things like the MCX128 that gives you 128K RAM, and things like the MCX32SD that actually gives you a pseudo floppy hard drive, it kind of strikes me as kind of a little bit more interesting machine, a little more usable. So anyway, so I'll be talking about the MC-10 and specifically with a stilt towards the things that I'm kind of interested in, which is kind of around CoCo VGA. Talk louder, or bring the mic closer to me. Okay. So just to provide some acknowledgments, this information is, this presentation and what I've been doing recently wouldn't have been possible without, some of the other MC-10 giants out there. Darren Atkinson, Simon Jonason, John Linville in particular. And then I also want to thank Jim Brain for the idea for the bad pun in the title. I'll accept blame for the rest of the puns and idioms. Okay, so a lot of you guys already know this, I imagine. So let's back up a little bit and talk about how video is drawn on a TV screen or monitor. Audio's cutting out. Okay.
You make an adjustment over here.
Okay.
On this piece. I'm going to be now we're getting feedback. Darren, just below feedback. See if that's any better.
Check, check. Is that better?
Oh, hell yeah.
Hello? Okay. It seems like kind of come and go still.
And when you turn your head to your left, it goes out.
Okay, I'll try not to turn my head. Try just to turn my body. So anyway, this is a typical diagram demonstrating raster scan and vertical retrace. So it's very common when you're painting a picture on a computer screen or any old CRT from the day, right? You start at the top left corner, you stream your electron beam to the right, and draw your pixels on the screen, and then there's a region where you fly back to the left and start again, right? And you keep doing that. And the times that are shown here where you're going back are not drawn, right? They're dotted lines. They're considered blanking regions, right? So you have a horizontal blanking region where you're going from the right to the left for the next wipe. And then at the bottom, when you reach this bottom corner, you've got a blanking region where you're going from bottom right corner to top left corner. So, no surprise, a lot of you guys already know this stuff. Okay. So, this is a pinout of the 6847 VDG. So it's common to the CoCo 1 and 2 and to the MC-10, as well as a couple other systems. Certainly it's in the Dragon. It's also in like the VZ200. There's a handful of other systems that have them as well. Anyway, so the signaling that we just talked about up there around horizontal and vertical sync actually is triggered on these pins. They show up, and I don't know if you can make it out here. HS has a bar over the top of it. FS has a bar over the top of it. So HS is horizontal sync when it has a bar over it because it's asserted low. So when it's low, then you know you're in the blanking region. And it so happens that on the CoCo, and FS is frame or field sync, so that's the same as vertical sync in this situation. So that guy is, on the CoCo, is tied to an interrupt pin on the 6809. So, anyway, so I think that's all I wanted to say there. I think most of the rest of the text kind of speaks for itself in terms of, you know, the rates and things like that. Okay, so here we go. So here's a comparison of the two schematics. So you can see on the CoCo, the field sync pin is, well, connected to something. I'm not drawing where the CPU is, but take my word for it, it's connected to the CPU. On the MC-10 schematic, you can see field sync is just floating, doesn't go anywhere. So you'll say, well, why do we care? Who cares about this you know, stupid pin? Well, there's a couple of different reasons. One, it enables software to do things during the blanking region, you know, like perform video memory updates, you know, things like that to avoid tearing. Secondly, it provides a 60 hertz for NTSC, periodic interrupt, 50 hertz for PAL guys out there, so that you can, you know, trigger these events regularly, right? And then last but not least, in my, where I'm most interested is, you know, the way CoCo VGA works is it of course knows when it's in the blanking region, and that's how software communicates with CoCo VGA to get to its enhanced features. So during the blanking region, if you drive a combo lock sequence into the, you know, the CSS and AG and I'm trying to remember the other pin. Anyway, there's 5 pins. You drive a combo lock sequence into it, and then that basically tells CoCo VGA the next video frame is not video, it's actually register settings or a character set to upload or whatever. And it lets you get to, you know, some of these extra features. So, you know, so my goal here was more around, well, how can I get the MC-10, how can I get to, you know, the CoCo VGA enhanced features on the MC-10 when I don't know when I'm in the blanking region? So that's why I'm investigating this. So, well, don't give up hope, right? It turns out that the 6803, right, which is the main processor in the MC-10, has a built-in timer. Well, yeah, can we you know, train it to pretend to be a, I don't know, a VSync surrogate, for example? Well, it can. So there's actually demonstrations, 2 demonstrations I can think of off the top of my head. There's John Linville's Xmas Rush for the MC-10. So, okay, so kind of the high level, what we're trying to do is train the 6803 timer to, you know, to pretend to be VSync using help from the user. And then we're going to use the train timer to, you know, access some of these features that we had just talked about, right? Synchronizing to CoCo VGA combo locks, switching back and forth between, you know, register set and video, and kind of in general being able to update video memory without tearing. Just a general software feature. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the, you know, how we might do this. So we kind of have to think about if we were going to make the timer in the 6803 mimic VSync. Well, we need to understand how long it takes to do a video frame. So so anyway, it's 57 CPU clock cycles per video scan line and 262 scan lines per frame. Not all of them are visible. And then that gives you a total of 14,934 timer ticks per frame. So that's the number of CPU cycles. So thanks to Simon Jonason. I was trying to figure this out from the 6847 spec and the 6803 spec, and I was not coming up with this number. So when it didn't work, he rescued me. So let's talk a little bit more about the timer. So the timer, is, you know, a 16-bit free running timer, right? So meaning it counts up to 65, 536, and then rolls over. So it's a you know, 2 bytes. It's at, you know, addresses bytes, offsets 9 and A. Output comparison value, which means the value we want to trigger the interrupt at when it hits it, is in BC. And then you can actually, you know, tell it, well, we want, when the output compare match happens, we want to keep, we want to cause the interrupt to trigger. So basically the idea is that every time you get an interrupt triggered in your interrupt service routine, you add this magic number to it, and then you can keep your timer synchronized to what VSync would be. So here's a little bit of a graphical example. Apologize for the time chart, eye chart. So the idea is that you know, the timer is just, the dot, dot, dot in front and behind of these is basically saying this time is just marching on. This counter just keeps going. So, and this is our output compare. So we originally have it set to 0. We take an interrupt. You know, this 0 is a little bit arbitrary. I'm just starting at time 0 because it makes life easy for the purpose of this demonstration. But we take our interrupt, the ISR triggers, it adds 14934 to the existing output compare value and comes up with 0 plus 14934 is 14934. We trigger again here. The ISR adds another 14934 to it. Then we trigger there, and so on. So that's just a timeline, and then you can see the idea is, you know, 16.67 milliseconds is our 60 hertz frame rate. Okay, so we've matched it, right? So that was kind of the easy part. Now we need to actually align it, right? How do we know when the blanking region is? We know we're matching the frequency, but yeah. So anyway, the idea here that that John and Darren demonstrated in their software was that you can use the color set select, right? That's the pin on the VDG that changes between the green video and the orange video, right? And so you can use that to sort of make the display orange in a small segment of the display. And then let's see if we can make allow the user to move it around and get it off screen, for example. So, so I experimented with this, and I found 96 was a good arbitrary value. And then once you get your orange all the way off the screen, well, now you've adjusted your 6803 timer to match up. It's not only running at the right frequency, but it's in phase. So let's talk about this a little bit more. So again, time is marching on here. So just like before, right, we take the timer output compare interrupt, we add 14934 to 0, okay, great. Well, this next time around, we take this interrupt, but the user happens to be holding down the up arrow key. And so we say, oh, okay, well, we're going to add 14934, but we're going to subtract 96. So we get a little bit smaller number than we did last time. And then, oh, the user just barely pressed it for about 32 milliseconds, and so they got a second up arrow. And so again, we add 14934 and subtract 96 to get this guy. So by doing this, you can see that, you know, instead of 16.67, well, for a couple of frames there, we got 1656. So we're for short periods of time when the keys are being held down, you're temporarily making the timer shorter than the video frame, such that it will roll one way or the other off the screen. Okay, so now now it's all synchronized. So now we have the ability to program the CoCo VGA combo lock. We can provide those register settings like I was talking about during the next video frame. And then we also know when that's done so that we can revert the video back away from the register settings and all the other garbage that's on the screen and back to something the user actually wants to see. So here's a timeline view of that same sort of thing. So here we are, we're marching along, life is good. Take our talk interrupt. Okay, we come here, and our next talk interrupt, we've decided over here that we're ready to provide some CoCo VGA register settings in the next video frame. So we take our next interrupt. The ISR understands that that global flag is set, and so it will program the combo lock using CSS, AG, and the mode bits, and then the next frame will be the register settings. And then we know when that's done because we get another interrupt, and then we just quickly clean up the screen and show the user, something else. Like I said, something they want to see. Okay, so some of the caveats, some of the problems here are kind of related to, there are some features missing from the MC-10 that the CoCo2 has. For example, the MC-10 doesn't have a SAM. The SAM is pretty cool and a really nice feature of the CoCo for a number of reasons. The one here that's most interesting is the fact that it can map video memory to any 512 byte aligned region. So it's very easy to, say, construct something that you don't want the user to see, but are your CoCo VGA setup during the blanking region, point over to that for one video frame, and then point back to the video region that you still had your graphics on, right? You can't do that on the MC-10. There's not a way to dynamically remap your memory on the fly. And so, that means that you're kind of in a race during the next, the follow-up blanking region to clean up after yourself, right? So just something to keep in mind there. So maybe it'll make a little more sense if I demonstrate this. So this MC-10 has been, I have an MCX32 SD on the back of it, and I've also 3D printed a case that makes it taller so I can actually fit a CoCo VGA board in here. It also gives me some places to add some more things like audio jacks, the CoCo VGA button board, and power and reset button just for good measure. Who doesn't like those? Let's see. Uh-oh, it's working better earlier.
There it is. It's up.
Okay, staying now? Okay, good. All right. Okay, so, so here, I'm using the up and down arrow keys, right? W and Z is how they're marked, to move the orange CSS region up and down, right? So I'm altering the phase, right? We're already in sync, but let's get this phase locked to off screen, hit enter, and then we've programmed CoCo VGA.
There you go. It just takes a minute to synchronize.
All right, so we programmed CoCo VGA to access the 64-column text mode, for example. So anyway, well, thank you. Yeah, so you should be able to get to the 16 color mode, right? You should be able to upload a character set, like Stevie's bomb game, right? You could do that, right? That makes all those things possible. So anyway. Infinity mirror. Oh, can't see it. Let's see here. I didn't mean to drop off the sharing.
I need you to share again, Brendan. If you got more slides to show, reshare.
Yeah, I only have one slide left, but yeah, sorry about that. I didn't know I dropped off sharing. I didn't mean to.
I stopped it so I could see Randy was zooming in on the projector.
Gotcha. All right. Sorry about that.
That was my bad. We're getting a really good infinity effect on it.
Yeah. So anyway, if you'd like to know more, well, feel free to talk to me, right? I'll be around. Drop me an email or whatever. So there's the paper that Simon and I wrote link to that. I've also got it at my table. And then, of course, you know, some specs and service manuals and stuff like that that were kind of useful for doing this. So anyway, that's all I got, just a quick demo. Thanks. So any questions or anything like that?
How much is it?
How much is it? I don't know. CoCo VGA is $95. I'm mostly sold out. I have a few boards left. Unfortunately, I have none that will fit the MC-10 at this point. So, but hopefully that will change. Yeah.
How much work was it to install that on the MC-10?
I'll be honest and say it's not hard, but it is easier if you have equipment to do things like desoldering. So let me talk about that just real briefly, qualify a little further. So on the MC-10, the 6847 is not socketed. So you will want to remove that, right? So I desoldered that and replaced it with a socket so I could plug a CoCo VGA board into it. Additionally, there's an RF shield that is soldered to the main board that covers all of the chips underneath the keyboard. And it obscures part of the 6847, so it's necessary to desolder and remove that as well. So those have large lugs soldered to the underside of the board. Beyond that, it's trivial. So anyway.
What you're saying is once you get past the hard part, it's easy.
Exactly. That is exactly what I'm saying. So anyway. And you can, you know, I originally did this with standoffs, little plastic or little nylon 18 millimeter standoffs with longer screws. I only did the 3D printed case later, but, you know.
We have a question about how much is the case extender going to cost?
Oh, I don't know. I have some available here at the show. I haven't really thought about the price, to be honest. So I think we can work out something cheap and trivial.
$100 cash? Does that work?
Yeah, I think I could probably sell 5 of them for $100. So, yeah. So if there's interest, I have some red and some black. Sure. That's not a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, great presentation.
Oh, thanks.
Brendan. Yeah, fantastic. Pretty interesting stuff. So I have a question. Is the main purpose behind using the timer to enable the software to know when to communicate with the board?
Yes.
Okay.
That is really the key.
Because, right, even if the V-Sync coming out of the 6847 isn't actually used or hooked up anywhere, you could always run a wire out to the hardware.
Yeah.
And solve that problem easier. Maybe even use an unused pin on the cartridge
Right.
slot, right?
Right.
But the problem is, and the reason why you're using the timer then, is to provide some flag on the software side to know when to communicate to the CoCo VGA, so that we can tell the difference between actual video data and the commands going to the CoCo VGA.
That's exactly right. So, you asked how hard this was to install. The hardware stuff was easy compared to the software stuff, right? The software stuff took a lot longer, but wasn't that hard once you put your mind to it. All right. Any other questions?
I just want to say thank you for making the CoCo VGA. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not my CoCo 1, but it is a cool product.
Oh, thank you.
For those of you who don't know what it does, it gives you VGA output on CoCo 1 and 2, and it emulates the artifact colors. It adds all these extra modes. You can do user-definable character sets. So it's a really cool product. I'm a fan.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. Thank you for making it.
Oh, thank you, Stevie. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you, everybody.